I love Batman. I've always loved Batman. I'd run around the house with a towel and safety pin to my back, and I'd be Superman, pretending I would fly, or I'd sneak around in dark corners pretending I was a Cape Crusader. Recently, I rewatched The Batman with Robert Pattinson, directed and written by Matt Reeves. And of course, you know the Penguin's in it and the Riddler. Really dark take, but it fits for The Dark Knight. And I really like this movie. I must have slept through it the first time. That made me want to go and rewatch a lot of the older Batman movies. So I started back in '89 with Michael Keaton. Fast forward, I went through the Dark Knight trilogy, of course, Christian Bale. Back to the '90s and working through two other Batman movies. And we're going to talk about those. Some of the worst movies ever made. We're going to talk about the Batcave, the Batmobiles, the best suit, and my favorite portrayals, and my favorite Bruce Waynes, and favorite villains, and the Bat Babes. We're going to talk about all that. Batman is the greatest superhero and one of the best characters ever made. Guys, thanks for being here. And let's go. A couple nights ago, I was going to make this video about Batman. But then I had a craving. I wanted to get out a toy that my mom got me a couple of years ago for Christmas. So I got it out and I put it on my desk. And all right, so here it is, a little 4-pad drum dealy, okay? And what this does is this allows me I could do, if I tell like a really bad joke, right? I can go, I have drums now at my desk. Kind of silly, I know. So my point is, the other night I was going to make this video. I sat here well over an hour, if not more, just pounding away at these drums, doing different rhythms, trying different things, trying different drum sounds, and just kind of just enjoying drumming on this simple little toy surface, if you will. And I just found, the next thing I knew, I look at the time on my computer, and it's like 4 a.m. I'm like, well, crap. I could not believe I just spent that much time just drumming around and, as Neil Peart says, hitting things with sticks. So that's what I did. So now we're doing it now. But this is the upgrade that I made. If I tell a really bad joke, I can now give myself a little... Yeah. I'm my own effects guy now, sound effect guy. All right. I have no idea what I'm going to do with these. If I want to hit them, I can come and hit them anytime I want. Yeah. So, yeah, now that's just part of my setup here. I've got a little drum pad thing going on. And all you drummers out there, and so many of my friends out there, you guys are drummers. Or at least you love drums, or you play, or used to play. And you're just like me. It's in your blood when you start playing. And that was my first instrument. Drums were my first instrument. Snare, bass, sometimes I would do both in band. I literally, one of those giant bass drums that had one hand with a mallet, another one with a stick, a snare drum, holding it, and point is, I've been playing drums since early elementary school. And then I switched to saxophone, right? So I wanted to be more melodic and do stuff like that. And you're going, okay, I thought we were talking about Batman. We are. But I know how many of you guys share my love and affinity for drums. And so I had to tell you about the cool thing that's now on my desk. Yeah. There you go. All right. So yes, we're talking about Batman. Bruce Wayne has such a tragic past. I mean, we all know the story. His parents were murdered in front of him. Of course, he has no superpowers. Bruce Wayne is a regular human guy. He's not Superman. He's not Green Lantern with a magical ring that grants him superpowers. He's not Wonder Woman. No. And as, what was it? It's in the Justice League movie, the Flash asks Bruce, what is your superpower? And he goes, I'm rich. And Ben Affleck, of course, I'm rich. Meaning, but Bruce is so much more than that. Bruce is not really, you could define him by his wealth, but he's extremely intelligent, a brilliant tactician. He's strategic. My favorite thing is he dresses all in black. And literally 24/7, I wear black. And it's not because of Bruce and not because of Batman. I just love black. I just love the lack of color. So I do love that about him, but he's also a detective. Sherlock Holmes is one of the best characters ever created. And Batman is part Sherlock Holmes. He's an amazing fighter, hands-on fighting, but he's a billionaire for the common people. Okay? Bruce gives back by giving all of himself to being a vigilante, but being a hero and saving people and saving Gotham and putting away bad guys, and whether it be in prison or in Arkham Asylum. That's what Batman does. That's what Bruce Wayne does. A billionaire for the common people. And I love that about him too, right? He could just sit in his mansion, make his toys and go cave diving and, but no. He goes out there and he beats on guys relentlessly, gets beat up in return, and he's just giving so much of himself for the people. And I love that about Batman. I grew up with Batman, Superman, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, mainly most all the DC characters, right? Superman. I grew up with these guys long before the MCU. The Iron Man movies, I can't get enough of Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. Which brings us to a really funny fact. If you watch the Lego movie, there's a line in there at least 2, if not maybe 3 times. His password for the Batcave is Iron Man sucks. Which is hilarious because if you think about it, Iron Man is an homage, if not a direct ripoff in borrowing everything from Batman. A wealthy guy who's extremely intelligent that makes tech and technology, and that he wears a suit of armor. Well, Batman basically does too. We all know Batman first started in the 60s, and I believe it's from 1966 to 1968, the Batman series. Adam West, Burt Ward, some amazing character actors and great actors played the villains in that series. That series was off the hook silly. Okay? These spontaneously blurred bubbles of words over their heads. Biff, bam, boom, right? Pop, bow. Okay, it was crazy. To the bat dance, but da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Batman. We all know that song. That's stuck in our heads for the rest of our lives. We know when you hear na-na-na-na-na-na, we all know what that means. That, though, was a template. The original Batman series, okay, with Adam West in the 60s, set up so much of the visual language that would inform future movies. Okay, that was the first time outside of the comic page we saw real characters in makeup as a Joker or the Penguin. Straight off the comic, off the pages of the comic book, we saw a direct visual representation shot on film back in the 60s, the TV series. And of course, I used to watch it. At my age, I watched the reruns. Of course, I didn't see it live action. And to me, that was Batman. That kind of silly, off-the-hook portrayal, the one where they're climbing the rope up the side of the wall, right? And of course, they shoot it like this, and then they just flip the film. It's just really funny. But that set up a visual language that would then be carried forward and refined and tweaked over time. So after the 1960s TV show, it would be another 21 years till we saw Batman. And this time, we saw it on the big screen. Tim Burton brought us the 1989 Batman movie. It opened on June 23rd, 1989. I was there, opening day, and I remember standing in line outside a theater in a small strip mall in rural Vermont. I was there to see Batman. And man, it was amazing. It was amazing. And that iconic scene in just the first few minutes of the movie, 2 criminals up on the rooftop, and Batman scares the crap out of them, kicks their butt, and then holds one over the ledge and goes, "Who are you?" And he goes, "I'm Batman." Michael Keaton, of course, playing Batman. 2 months later, that movie made such an impression on me. On all my notebooks, I started drawing the symbol. Okay, the Batman logo has changed from the comics and throughout the comics to the TV show to the Tim Burton movies, changed, and then also through the Dark Knight, and now the Batman. And every different iteration has changed the logo a little bit. And some have the claws, and some have more of a tail on the bat, the bat symbol. I say all that, but that 1989 version made such a massive impression on me that my mom made me a custom cake. This is from 2 months later, in August, for my birthday, a custom birthday cake. And of course, this is me at the table with my long hair. You can see my long hair back here. It was almost like a mullet. We had long hair in back, but kind of short up front. But that's me, about 15 years old. But yes, my Batman cake. 2 months later, that movie changed so much for me. It was brilliant. Of course, it has Michael Keaton, directed by Tim Burton, and of course, iconic Jack Nicholson as the Joker. Brilliant portrayal of the Joker. And, it's Jack Nicholson. It's Jack Nicholson. Come on. But his Joker was phenomenal, and I loved it. And it was a great story. It was a great movie. Of course, Kim Basinger is in it. And it started where we are today. Okay, all these years later, since 1989, we can thank Tim Burton and Michael Keaton for making such a brilliant movie and proving that it could be wildly successful and to make something visually compelling. So after the 1989 Batman movie, which for me, changed everything, 3 years later in 1992, Batman Returns. Michael Keaton comes back, this time adding Michele Phifer as Catwoman and Danny DeVito as the Penguin. Much of the, quote, the dark noir feeling of the Batman movie carried over. Tim Burton, again, directing. So this is all, again, his vision. Added some new characters, Max Schreck and some other people, but this is where the quality for me started to go down. Michele Phifer, really good as Catwoman. It worked. She did well. Danny DeVito, a little over the top. What can I say? He's Danny DeVito and he's Penguin. And he did an okay job. A lot of it's kind of disgusting, as I think it was meant to be. But there were some puns and sexual innuendo in there that told me, and it's just indicative of writing suffering. And a lot of these lines were delivered by Penguin, kind of a degenerate pervert, if you will. Not to mention a psychopath that grew up in the sewers. So yeah, 1992, Batman Returns. Following that, 1995, this is where the crap hits the fan. And it really gets bad after this. Batman Forever. We changed Bruce Wayne. We changed who plays Batman. This time around, Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer did an okay job. I don't want to say anything bad about Val Kilmer. Come on, the Iceman from Top Gun. But it's not his fault. I put all of the blame on the writing and the direction by Joel Schumacher. So Tim Burton gave up the reins. I think he kept producing the films, but Joel Schumacher became the director. The next two films, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, if I were to put it in just a few words, homoerotic fever dream. That's what these movies feel like. The bat suits got really ridiculous. They added nipples to them. And the really, what's the word? The over-the-top, self-indulgent butt shots, all right? When they're putting on the Bat and Robin suits, shots of their butts and close-up. And it's ridiculous. Homoerotic fever dream. That's what these movies felt like. So in Batman Forever, yes, we got Joel Schumacher at the film, Val Kilmer taking over as Batman, Tommy Lee Jones, and Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey, of course, playing the Riddler, Tommy Lee Jones playing Two-Face. Tommy Lee Jones did okay. But, man, after The Fugitive, you expect Tommy Lee Jones, right? This was not what we got from The Fugitive. I loved him in The Fugitive. This was not that. Now, Jim Carrey is Jim Carrey. If it's going to be over the top and out of this world, just over the top, that's Jim Carrey. And he delivered in spades. and way too many question marks. This is another thing that the Bat movies got, the next two movies, Batman Forever and Batman Returns, the amount of icon placement. Everything has a stupid bat symbol or a Robin symbol or a Batgirl symbol or a Riddler symbol or a Two-Face. Everything is labeled, and it's just like this horrific, it's just marketing overload. Meaning nothing is about form and function anymore. It's simply about form. It's simply about adhering to these marketing things that they came up with. Like, this is the bat symbol now. We're going to make it like that. And the Batmobile, over the top, ridiculous. The Batmobile kept kind of the same design as Batman and Batman Returns. However, starting in Batman Forever, it had this giant kind of fin off the back of it. I mean, giant, like 5 feet in the air, single fin coming off the back. When you can see the actual physical car driving down this street, you can actually see the bat fin, one single fin, by the way, waving back and forth, right? It's not even stable. And it takes you out. All of this stuff takes you out of the element. You lose that suspension of disbelief. You want to believe you're in that world. You want to believe you're immersed in that world. And so much of this takes you straight out of that. Batman Forever is the descent into madness, which only gets worse with Batman and Robin. So Batman Forever was a bad movie. And you can just sum it up like that. The name itself, over the top, Batman Forever. But then we get to the true atrocity. A war crime of cinema, 1997's Batman and Robin. Over all these years, almost 30 years since I truly sat down and watched Batman and Robin, memory did not serve it well. How bad a movie this is. The word bad is not good enough. I don't have the English language to express what an atrocity this is. An affront to intelligence, to cinema, and what a desecration it is to Batman. Words cannot describe. Of course, 1997, Batman and Robin, okay? Joel Schumacher, once again, homoerotic fever dream. That's how I describe his Batman movies. Arnold Schwarzenegger, George Clooney as Batman, Chris O'Donnell as Robin, Uma Thurman as the plant lady, yes, Poison Ivy, and finally Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl. Yes, memory did not. So I sat down, I forced myself to watch this movie, and every line, 98% are puns. It's gonna freeze tonight. It's getting cold in here. Arnold Schwarzenegger. I would be going back and forth. It was around the time I had my neck surgeries, and I went back to Cape Cod. I had my surgeries at Mass General in Boston. And I'd stay with my parents. I'd had a big halo brace. Okay, I looked like a Batman villain myself, right? This big metal bars looking up a halo brace bolted to my head as I'm recovering from catastrophic and life-saving neck surgery. And there at the Cape Cod airport, because Arnold Schwarzenegger was married to Maria Shriver, who's a friend of the Kennedys. The Kennedy compound is on Cape Cod. So Arnold Schwarzenegger flew his private jet, which is like a 737. It was a passenger jet, his private plane. But on the side, emblazoned, was the whole Batman and Robin theme for that movie. He was a flying advert for Batman and Robin. This was style over intelligence. This was form, if you can call it that, over function. This was stupidity and puns, arguably the lowest form of comedy, a pun, over intelligence in actual screenwriting, story and plot and characters and character development. None of that exists in Batman and Robin. Nothing intelligent exists in Batman and Robin. The desecration they did to the Bane character, which we're about to talk about soon in Batman Rises, we saw a proper Bane, okay, as a character, beautifully done. But Batman and Robin, words, I don't have the words. I don't have the English language to express what an atrocity and what an affront to intelligence this movie is. If you, all I have to do is say, hey, go to Max, or if you own it or find it, and go watch it. No, really, don't. No, do. I want you I want you to go experience the hellscape. The sheer... Oh, I don't have the words to describe how awful Batman and Robin was. So that year was 1997. And that was a low point in my life, too. Kind of a perfect storm, if you will, right? My favorite superhero, Batman. And it seems like when you add Robin to the mix, no one has truly done that justice. Batman Rises tried, in that Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, we find out might become Robin, so it was the promise of him. And had those movies been made, or a sequel, or some kind of spinoff, that would have been cool. But Robin's never been done well. Smart move by Zack Snyder. We'll get to it in Superman and Batman versus Superman, where Robin's, the Joker took him out, and it's in the Batcave. Haha, the joke's on you, or something like that is written on Robin's costume. But that doesn't make the movie bad, the fact that they had Robin. Or, oh, what a sniveling idiot Alicia Silverstone is. I just wonder, is her character from Clueless, the Clueless movie, right, that made her something? It's like she then just put on a bat suit. Again, all the gratuitous shots of the rubber suits and shots of their butts as they're putting them on, and everything has a Bat logo on it, or a Robin logo, or a Batgirl logo, or Mr. Freeze. And by the way, there's this one scene where Batman and Robin are about to fight all the goons of Mr. Freeze, and they click their heels together, and skates come out of their heels. Yes, the Bat boot in Robin's boots had built-in ice skates. Wow. It's no wonder it took many, many, many years and Christopher Nolan to resurrect Batman. And in 2005, Batman Begins. Beautiful title, right? We had to go back to the beginning. We had to reboot him completely with intelligence. And yes, in 2005, Batman Begins. You guys know it well. Christopher Nolan writing, directing, Christian Bale as Batman. A great Batman. Michael Caine, this time, as Alfred. Liam Neeson, Ra's al Ghul. Gary Oldman as Commissioner Gordon, or Detective Gordon. Katie Holmes plays a lawyer and a good friend of Bruce Wayne. Morgan Freeman as Mr. Fox. And Cillian Murphy as Scarecrow. Great portrayal, by the way. This was long before he did Oppenheimer with Nolan. And again, Scarecrow is in all three of these movies. But Batman Begins, man, did it begin again, right? It truly resurrected Batman and took it seriously, grounded it in reality, where it was Batman, yes, and you could see him in, this is where we saw intelligence come back into play. The Batmobile was the tumbler. Something developed by, the research wing of Wayne Enterprises, the Tumbler, which became the Batmobile, right? And it was just so cool because it felt real. It felt like it could be real. Its purpose for the military was to jump over rivers, if you will, and then drag a portable bridge over. Okay, so it was to bridge troubled waters. And the Tumbler became the Batmobile. And when he's test driving, he just turns and goes, "Does it come in black?" Just so cool, so iconic. I do really like Christian Bale's portrayal of Bruce Wayne, especially as Batman. Following that, arguably the best, if not in the very top echelons of Batman movies, is The Dark Knight. The sequel to Batman Begins. Bringing back Christian Bale with Chris Nolan. I believe he's writing this time with his brother Jonathan. They co-wrote The Dark Knight. But Heath Ledger played the Joker. God rest his soul, he's passed on. And he gave everything to that role. Heath Ledger as the Joker. Brilliant. Insane. And evil. And yet was so grounded that through the cracks, if you will, the facade, the makeup that he'd wear over his scarred face, you felt a humanity, and therefore you feel a connection to the Joker, even though you wouldn't want him near your best friend. Heck, you wouldn't want him near your enemy. This Joker's, you know, want to see a magic trick? And he slams the guy heads down on the table into the pencil and kills him with a pencil. Very John Wick move there. But the Joker was just so beautifully portrayed, and he got a Best Actor award for that after his death. Much deserved. The Dark Knight, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Aaron Eckhart as Two-Face. And that was done really well. Such a good movie. Such a beautiful movie, The Dark Knight, 2008. 4 years later, Dark Knight Rises. This is where Bane comes in. And the daughter of Ra's al Ghul, bringing back the entire cast, but Tom Hardy this time as Bane. Bane this time was intelligent and a fierce fighter, a true foe, a proper adversary for Batman. And in that one scene where, I'm trying to find her name here. Yeah, where Anne Hathaway, as Catwoman, brings him into the depths, into the sewers. And Batman faces off right away. This is by Batman Rises, this is 8 years in that timeline after the events of Dark Knight. The cartilage is blown in his knee. He's an older man. He hasn't been fighting for a long time. This is an older, worn Bruce Wayne. And he's not in that peak fighting form that we saw him before Batman Begins, The Dark Knight. So, with that being said, that's set up so beautifully in the story to where we know he's not where he should be. And that is the character arc for Bruce in Dark Knight Rises, where he does rise in every sense of the word, literally and figuratively and mentally, and he has to rise from where he started, being a recluse for all those years, locked away in his mansion, hobbling around with a cane, and then he fights Bane, a true Bane, and Bane breaks him, literally breaks his back, slams him around, and Bruce, Batman in that fight, that iconic fight, he tries all of his tricks, right? All his little ninja moves and shuts the lights off and little explosive, and it doesn't even faze Bane, because Bane is part of the League of Shadows. He knows all these tricks. He's been taught them, and he knows the counter warfare for Batman's deceptive warfare and the way he fights. So after he breaks him, he puts him in this prison, deep underground, but hope is there. The hope because you can see the sky. And Bruce must ascend and rise from that to go back and save Gotham. It's just a beautiful movie. And we tend to look at Dark Knight as like one of the pinnacles of Batman movies. However, Dark Knight Rises is right there with it. As a perfect companion to and continuation of the story of Bruce Wayne, the story of Batman, and all the characters that surround him. This time adding Anne Hathaway as Catwoman. Beautiful backup cast. And again, once again, Scarecrow's there acting as judge, jury, and executioner, giving the sentences for people to run out on the ice. But just a fantastic movie, Dark Knight Rises. The entire trilogy. Nolan did this so beautifully. 2016's Batman vs. Superman, The Dawn of Justice. It's called that because, yes, this is the beginnings of what we see of their Justice League in the DC Universe. Zack Snyder directing this, Ben Affleck as Batman, Henry Cavill Superman, Amy Adams, Jesse Eisenberg, of course, as Lex Luthor, Lawrence Fishburne, Jeremy Irons, Gal Gadot, of course, as Wonder Woman, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Bruce's dad. So yeah, Batman versus Superman. Yes, I rewatched this as well recently. The movie still holds up. There was a lot of criticism of this movie among some, and yet I do enjoy. Ben Affleck's Batman has grown on me. It really has. Is he my favorite? No, but it was surprisingly a pretty good portrayal of Bruce Wayne. 2007, the Will Smith movie, I Am Legend, there is a poster, if you will, a billboard in Times Square. Of course, it's digital. In I Am Legend, Will Smith is, quote, the last man on Earth. After a viral contagion has taken out most of civilization, he's still looking for a cure. And in that movie, yes, there is a logo for Batman and Superman, the overlay, the Batman symbol and the Superman symbol. And the people have just been in wonder, like, how could that be a billboard, a virtual billboard in 2007 when Batman versus Superman, the movie, wasn't made till 2016? Well, it's because it's the same writer. The guy who actually wrote a treatment or screenplay for that in the early 2000s ended up writing I Am Legend and put that in as an Easter egg. So how cool is that we see the very same kind of iconography, the bat symbol over the Superman symbol? 2017's Lego Batman, Will Arnett. I've loved Will Arnett ever since and still do for his portrayal of Job on Arrested Development. If you haven't watched it, go watch the first 2 to 3 seasons of the first 3 definitely, of Arrested Development. It's on Netflix. He plays Job. And Will Arnett he's gifted, he's talented, but you know what? He could be a live action Bruce Wayne. It would be a different kind of take, but I think it's really good. I really like Will Arnett's Lego Batman. And by the way, fun movie. Man, rewatching Lego Batman recently was a blast. I enjoyed every moment of it. It was over the top. It was fun. It was colorful and action-packed and explosive, but still did justice to the Batman character and stayed true to who Bruce Wayne is. And he had his own character arc, kind of kiddie form, like I got to find friends and I need friends and that kind of, but the acceptance of friends. And instead of being a loner, that was a story arc for Bruce and Lego Batman. But it works because that's the kind of movie it is. Lego Batman, a lot of fun. 2017 Justice League. This is the first time we saw the Justice League. Around that time, Zack Snyder, who basically helped write and direct Justice League, well, he lost his daughter. Very sad. She took her own life. And Zack and his wife, who helps produce his movies, they had to step away. And Joss Whedon, famously from the Buffy and Angel universe. Of course, Joss Whedon directed and wrote the first 2 over at Marvel. He did the first 2 Avenger movies, right? Avengers and Age of Ultron. Well, Joss came over. This is after that, right? That was like 2014, 2012 for the first couple of Avenger movies. Well, he came over and took the reins of Justice League. Woo! It's famous. Famously, he reshot so much of this stuff. Didn't use 60 to 80% of what Zack planned or what Zack had shot, and did not have Zack's vision, and that version came out. And we got to see the continuation of Superman with Henry Cavill and, of course, Ben Affleck as Batman. Because of fan input, by 2021, Zack Snyder's Justice League came out. Couple of versions. There's a colored version and there's a gray version, Justice is Gray. This is over 4 hours long. It's the longest DC movie that's ever been made. Over 4 hours long. And when you watch Justice League, and I suggest you do, it's really good. Zack Snyder's version is really good. When you watch Justice League, you see what could have been back at that first 2017 version. Because he did, it was a great movie. Heavy use of CGI. It's everywhere. But it's a darn good movie. And I really like Bruce Wayne in this. I like his Batmobile. He's got this big bat troop carrier, which is really cool. And it comes out of the lake and the waters separate the bat caves down there. And they kind of tamp down on the Flash. I can't stand that guy. I can't wait till DC finds a new Flash, by the way. Get rid of Ezra Miller. Don't care for him. But in 2021, Zack Snyder, it was released digitally, not in theaters. They should actually release it in theater. It'd be cool to see an IMAX version of that. See it on the big screen. But Zack Snyder's Justice League, I'm so glad he was able to come back and finish that movie. Marvel took all those years to build up multiple films and having characters, 3 Iron Men and multiple Thors and multiple Cap Americas, and then adding the Guardians and all these little puzzle pieces to get to the big juggernaut movies of Avengers, right? And we get to, of course, the Infinity War movie and then finally Endgame. And you can kind of see this roadmap, and that was done really well. Okay? This road and this path where they build up and they build up, and they kept the properties going until they had the big ensemble movies. Well, DC didn't do that. Yes, we had Wonder Woman, we had Batman, and we had 2 Superman technically movies, and I guess we had an Aquaman, but they did it in shorter form. They kind of, it was kind of rushed a little bit. The Batman, written and directed by Matt Reeves with Robert Pattinson. Man, I really like his portrayal as Bruce Wayne. It's dark, it's brooding. It's the first time we see Bruce with his cowl off, right? The bat suit off, but when we see the dark around his eyes, you put that makeup there so it's dark underneath the mask. We see that, and that was the first time we've seen that in one of the movies. But it's a really dark movie, but it serves Batman well. And he is way over the top with the whole vengeance thing. I am vengeance. And yet, even that seems to be a character arc. Because those words and kind of that creed that Batman carried, right? I'm the vengeance against the bad in the city and for Gotham. We see that used by the anarchist and by the evil dude when the Riddler does all this stuff, right? These people are saying that they are vengeance. And therefore that seems to be kind of a character arc where I'm hoping Bruce has learned from that you can be more. That maybe vengeance isn't yours. Fighting for good is fine. But saying that you're vengeance, when the bad guys take that over, you have to start questioning, is this the right path? Is this where I should go? So yeah, great movie. Colin Farrell, of course, as the Penguin. And man, he is almost unrecognizable, right? He's a pretty good Irish-looking dude, and he's playing this guy that sounds like he has a New York, Chicago accent, but heavy prosthetics on, right, as a Penguin. And you can barely recognize him, but he's immersed into the character. It's done really well. They're all very immersed. And Zoe Kravitz, of course, playing, Catwoman, if you will. The 1960s TV show was the first time that we saw visual representations off the comic book page, and we saw it actually living and breathing on screen. But then Tim Burton, in his versions, we then saw this could be truly fit the motif in the darkness, right? And certain comic book lines went a lot darker, right? The Dark Knight comic series. So you're starting to mix like the template done by the earliest, the darkness and that quirkiness by Tim Burton. And then you start grounding it with Christopher Nolan. These kind of waypoints along the way, all leading to influencing what we saw with the Batman, with Matt Reeves. Of course, anyone who makes a Batman movie now, of course, is influenced by and has been watching these Batman movies for decades. They themselves, the writers and directors, the people who design the Batmobile, the people who make the bat suit, are all influenced by what we've seen on screen. Think about the Batman versus Superman, that cool mech suit, right? The heavy armor version. And that, and when, by the way, it has the kind of glowing white, blue eyes. Ben Affleck, when he wore that suit, he couldn't see a darn thing. Think about it. They had little LED screens in there. He was blind behind that thing. Can you bleed? When we get to Rob Pattinson's version, it does look really armored, right? But it's also a mixture of the sectionalized versions that we saw in The Dark Knight when he requested the new bat suit from Fox. In 2023, The Flash came out. This movie was fraught with production problems, reshoots, issues, delays to get to the theater. The Flash, Ezra Miller. Don't care. I really hope they get rid of him, by the way. But they brought back Michael Keaton. It's kind of a cool full circle moment from 1989. But and in 2023, we get to see the older Michael Keaton come back. So that was just great to see him again. All told, there were 12 Batman movies. We've talked about starting in 89 with Batman, and then Batman Returns, and then Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, Dark Knight Rises, Batman Superman, Lego Batman, Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League, The Batman, and The Flash. 12 movies. 2 more coming. 2 more movies. Batman Part 2, with Robert Pattinson, Matt Reeves again. The Batman Part 2, we're expecting that around 2027. And to be determined, but is on the slate to be created, probably in pre-production or pre-production now, is the Lego Batman movie 2. So we have a new The Batman, and we have Will Arnett coming back as Lego Batman. I asked myself, what if my favorite superhero had a title match? In this quarter, Batman. And in the other quarter, Boba Fett. Imagine this fight. You know, like in the Marvel movies, right? Avengers. We see Iron Man go up against Thor. They have all these one-off battles where you get to see your favorite superheroes take each other on. Of course, they end up on the same team. Justice League did the same thing. Batman versus Superman. We get to see... Oh, in Justice League, we see when Superman comes back, we see him fight all of the other people, right? Before Lois comes and he remembers that he's actually Superman. So it's classic. We'd love to see these matchups. So I keep asking myself, Batman versus my favorite bounty hunter from Boba Fett. Now, of course, Boba Fett does use guns. Multiple types of guns. Batman, well, some projectiles. So maybe if we said, okay, no gun... All right, no guns allowed of the traditional laser kind. So it's just Boba Fett and all his tech and his, all his cool gadgets and stuff and toys versus Batman. Who do you think would win? Batman versus Boba Fett. Have you guys ever wondered what's in my Rush lunchbox? This is where I have a whole massive set of weapons and gear and stuff that go with my toys. This is all loose stuff from years and years of action figures. But in here are 3. These came with my Dark Knight Batman. These 2, which I guess is for a kid to use, have his own Batarang. But this one, kind of slightly oversized if you ask me. But this is kind of a Batarang for Batman. So he can actually hold on to it. And it's made of rubber. So you can actually see that it bends, right? Because this could be probably a choking hazard or something. I mean, say if a kid plays with this, of course, probably of the people who still have this, this sucker came out in 2008-ish. Of the people who still have this Batman, it's probably mostly adults. But I'm sure for legal reasons, they have to make this Batman safe for kids. Batman versus Boba Fett. Jetpack. He can swing, but also we know his other abilities. So what do you guys think? If Batman had a battle. By the way, that's how you retract it. This comes out like that, and then you move his arm to ratchet it back in. Pretty cool toy. Very cool toy. One of my favorite action figures ever. Then I asked myself, okay, what if it's Marvel and DC? What if we have, I'm Batman. I'm going to take you out, punk. But then we have this guy.
There's one other name you might know me by. Star-Lord.
Star-Lord. So yes, this is Star-Lord. Specifically, of course, the one we know from the movies. Chris Pratt's version. And it has this little button. For copyright reasons, the cool mixed soundtrack that go with the Guardian of the Galaxy movies, they don't have that, so they have these horrifically...
I'm just a junker is all.
They have these really awful generic songs.
I come from a planet of outlaws.
He's like, I am an outlaw. Now he's laughing at Batman. Batman's about to smack him down.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Wait, you do have a plan, right? Or is that just another thing you made up?
Anyway, pretty cool toy,
My
right?
friends, the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. Well, I'm Batman. I'm guarded.
Don't mess with my friends.
Oh, I'll mess with your friends, punk. And then Boba Fett's over here like, so we can't do disintegrations? Remember when Darth Vader said, no disintegrations? Empire Strikes Back. That's when, of course, when we first see Boba Fett. So there you go. Now that would be a sweet, supreme battle right there. With Star-Lord, Boba Fett, and Batman. Now imagine they get it out of their system. They have this big, gnarly fight. And then they team up. A Star Wars, Marvel, DC team up. Now these guys, I would pay big money to see them fight a bad guy. That would be awesome. So there you go, guys. There's my Boba Fett, my Dark Knight, and my and my Star-Lord.
That's gonna wear real thin, real fast.
You can say that again. To date, there have been many TV shows and animated TV shows and movies about Batman. There have been over 40 animated Batman universe TV shows and movies. I mean, a lot. And like if you go to Max and look at Batman, I counted. There's over 40 movies and series about Batman. And the live action stuff from Pennyworth to Titans to the Penguin in Gotham. Those are just 4 of the live action Batman TV series. So Batman has been prolific, not only in movies with those 12, over 40 animated, and numerous different series in which Batman played a part. Video games. The Arkham series is highly lauded. You guys love it. I've played it. It's a lot of fun. Actually, being Batman in an immersive world in a game is super cool. So there's been a whole series of Batman games. We've talked about 4 different Batman eras. Of course, we have the Tim Burton era. We have the Christopher Nolan era. Zack Snyder's and Matt Reeves. My favorite among them, yeah, probably Christopher Nolan. Yeah. I mean, I have very little, anything bad to say from Batman Begins to Dark Knight Rises. The Christopher Nolan era was just a solid Batman trilogy. I love Tim Burton's first movie, one of my favorites. With Zack Snyder, I like Batman and Superman. I like a lot of it. I love the Batman sections. Okay, the Batmobile sections. I love the part where he's being Batman. When he steals the kryptonite from Lex's place, right? And we see that footage. And people just disappearing off screen. And Lex is walking through a mountain of bullet casings, right? Of course, Batman got what he wanted. He came. Nobody got him. And he got out. That's Batman. Sneaking around, kicking butt as a ninja. That's Batman. So when I see that on screen, I'm happy. And I got a lot of I'm happy moments with Zack Snyder's portrayal of Batman in both as Batman and Superman and Justice League. And then Matt Reeves, yeah. We don't know how many movies Matt's going to make. We know he made the Batman. And I do really like Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne and his Batman. I like them both. Alfred Pennyworth has been played by many different actors through the years. Michael Gough. He has passed away from us. He lived from 1916 to 2011, but he was the Alfred in the Tim Burton era, if you will. Okay, Tim Burton's 2 movies and Joel Schumacher's 2 movies. I kind of lump all those together as a Tim Burton era, even though I know, of course, he only did the first 2. He not Forever and Batman and Robin, but the Alfred from that era, he has passed away from us, but he was an older, much more frail Alfred. But when you think about Alfred, yeah, he kind of fits the bill. Michael Caine, of course, during Christopher Nolan's era. Really good stuff. I love Michael Caine, and I'm not sure there is a Chris Nolan movie that he hasn't been in. But he's a really good Alfred. I like him. Now, Ray Fiennes. Ray Fiennes plays Alfred in the Lego Batman movies. Okay? We don't get to see him as much. He does get to go on the missions, though. Really hands-on Alfred, though, is Jeremy Irons, second to Ben Affleck's. So when we see Ben Affleck on screen in Justice League and Batman and Superman, when we see, that's the Alfred, Jeremy Irons. Of course, he played Scar back in The Lion King, but yeah, a lot of other roles, but that just comes to mind. But we can see him testing and building and working on the bat suit or the Batmobile. So he's a really hands-on Alfred, so I like him. And finally, Andy Serkis. Andy Serkis is the Alfred to Robert Pattinson. And again, carrying on the idea that Alfred is integral in the Batcave. He's part of the process. But if you do go back, Michael Gough, he knew about the Batcave, and he was part of the whole process, but not as much hands-on. Of all of them, which one do I like the best? Probably Michael Caine's. He was kind of the best mix of worlds. Not super old and frail, but yes, aging, right? He's helped raise Bruce through the years. Alfred is so integral to the Batman story. Well, you wouldn't have a modern Bruce Wayne. You wouldn't have the Batman that we have without Alfred as part of the picture. Let's talk about villains. Right off the bat, the Joker portrayals are some of the best. Jack Nicholson, iconic. It's Jack Nicholson. Iconic Joker. So good, so off the hook, so Nicholson. It just brilliant portrayal. And then Heath Ledger as a Joker in The Dark Knight. So good, so sadistic and evil and just great, right? I want my bad guy to be bad. I want him to be through and through. Yes, he has his agenda. He might have a background. You can humanize him, but he's still an evil jerk. Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face and Aaron Eckhart as Two-Face. By the way, I like Ledger over Nicholson. Yeah. Aaron Eckhart, yes, over Tommy Lee Jones. Yeah, definitely as Two-Face. Jim Carrey and Paul Dano as the Riddler. Oh, definitely Paul Dano's. Jim Carrey's is just way over the top. Michelle Phifer, Anne Hathaway, and Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. Michelle Phifer. Yeah, definitely. Danny DeVito, Colin Farrell as the Penguin. Oh, Colin Farrell. Again, Danny DeVito's portrayal, it was the Penguin. I didn't like some of the choices there, both in writing and portrayal as a Penguin, so I do like Colin Farrell's Penguin a lot better, just as a crime boss. And, of course, then again in the Penguin series. Batmobiles. You don't have an awesome Batman with a classic and amazing Batmobile. Of course, you go back to 1966. Adam West's Batmobile. It was basically like an old, I don't know if it was a Caddy or it was a Chevy, with the big fins, and they took that to the next level, right? And they painted it up black and made it the Batmobile. That, though, set a template, all right? And, of course, we have the comics, you start there, and then you move your way, and through the years, we've seen the Batmobile kind of evolve and take shape, and what we kind of accept as what should be, and what should be cool. Michael Keaton's Batmobile. It was cool. Man, when he's running around the city and he's with Vicky Vale, he goes, shields, into his little talking thing, and then all the shields come. That was really cool, right? And then, so it's also remote control. So the controls were also built into the Batmobile. He could bring it to him. That was a pretty cool Batmobile. Now, the Tumbler 2005, Christian Bale's, yeah, the one that we see in The Dark Knight Rises, and Batman Begins. I really love this Batmobile. It was just different. And I loved how it was different because it's you believe that someone as wealthy as Bruce Wayne, with advancements in technology, it wasn't something that you get off of a car lot. The Batmobile should not be something that I can go pick up and put a coat of paint on and I've got, no. It needs to be something really special. In The Dark Knight, when they had catastrophic failure, this turned into the Bat Pod or the Bat Cycle, right? And we got to see this again in Dark Knight Rises. Yeah, this is my toy version. And yeah, this was just so cool, right? And that scene, he's about to go with, up against the Joker, but he goes up the wall and flips around. And then in Dark Knight Rises, we see that these tumblers can actually spin this way. So it can do these kind of lateral moves like this on the strafe on the street. So cool. So yes, I love the tumbler. It is so cool. Will that stay right there? Sweet. All right. After that, taking from Christopher Nolan, taking from Christian Bale's Tumbler Batman, because they call it the Tumbler, is Ben Affleck's. Very similar, smaller wheelbase. It doesn't have these giant wheels, but he took that big hulky tank design. There's just some really organic, funny moments in the Dark Knight Rises, where the police are on the radio. It's like, just describe it to me, and it races past like, never mind. Anyway, there are kind of some cute little funny moments where the police are just dumbfounded, like, what's happening? What is this vehicle? And again, he, without harming and making fun of the police, it just points out that Batman's operating at a higher level, and he has to. Because the cops can operate at one level, but Batman being slightly outside of the law, with so many more toys and gadgets, he has to, because guess what? The criminal element is operating at this level, and we need a Batman to rise to that occasion. See what I did there? And then finally, Robert Pattinson. A lot more grounded Batmobile. I do love his Batmobile, though. He rode I'm not sure it's a Ducati, or he rode a regular motorcycle through most of the Batman. Rob Pattinson did. But this Batmobile, though, brought it away from that giant tank tumbler form, a little bit more down to earth, if you will. Leaner, tighter, but still had the jet engine, still had tons of armor, guns to shoot through stuff. But I love how lean and crisp the newest Batmobile is. I just think it's really sweet looking. Of all of them, yeah, Tumbler is probably my favorite, followed by Robert Pattinson's, followed by the Batman's one. Yeah, those are probably my two favorite. A close third, of course, Michael Keaton, the original Batmobile from 1989. The Bat. It was it had the copters underneath, right? And on top, it almost looked like it had the shell of the Tumbler. It's kind of a tank with a big rotary copter thing underneath. And again, it was grounded in realism. The second you start making the vehicle look like the bat symbol, I got a problem, okay? I don't believe Bruce or Batman would come up with a design or adopt a design and wanted to have the silly symbol that you see on the light. That's, the bat symbol. I don't think he would want that. I think he wants function. He wants it to work, and he wants it to be able to scare and intimidate and cause fear in the hearts of his enemies. That's what his weapons and that's what his vehicles should do. At least, I believe that's what Bruce Wayne would be thinking. Not like, it's great and all, but can you make it look like the bat symbol? That's where it gets stupid and ridiculous. That's my problem with Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. All style, zero substance. Batsuit. A lot of different Batsuits. You go back to 1966, Adam West, right? Batman and Robin, the TV show. You know it well. They're wearing tights. Zero protection. Again, this is a TV show. Tim Burton's Batsuit brought in the idea of armor. We see in one of the couple of very first scenes of Batman in 1989 version where he gets shot by a gun. It doesn't hurt him at all, right? So we learn that his suit is actually bulletproof. So important. Batman has to be bulletproof, period. End of sentence. And that comes up again in The Dark Knight, where he gets the new suit, but it's made of like these sections and stuff, so he can turn his neck and have a lot more mobility and stuff. Great idea, great concept, but while maintaining the bat suit. And he asks about gunfire. He said, yeah, it'll take a straight shot. But then again, with the little chinks in the armor, the little separations between the plates, yes, a knife can get through, which, by the way, paid off in Dark Knight Rises, where Al Ghul actually, she sticks a blade right through his suit, up into his body, and turns, right? She literally like stabs him in the back, right? When Bane's there on the floor in Dark Knight Rises. So, but that was such a great bat suit. Taking that idea, we saw that morph into, of course, Ben Affleck's version. I love his gray suit. Okay, it has that kind of almost like the behind me on the screen here, right? That kind of, I don't know, stainless steel metallic look. It's gray with kind of black accents. I love that. The scene in Batman and Superman where he takes out the warehouse full of guys to save Superman's mom, right? To save Martha. Martha! Why'd you know, that scene, man, with Martha. Why'd you say that name? It's like, that's his mother's name. My mom's name is Martha. That's going to go down in history as one of the silliest points in superhero movies, but led to one of the coolest freaking fights ever when Batman jumps through the window on the second floor. He's below all the bad guys, takes out the floor, magnetic things to pull all their guys. I mean, when he kicks so much butt, beautifully shot and directed by Zack Snyder. I love that scene so much. That's Batman. When Batman is kicking butt, taking out hordes of bad guys on his own. Gunshots going off, bouncing off of his hood and bouncing off of his armor. He's taking different hits and stuff. That's Batman. I mean, that's what I want to see. I want to see Batman completely annihilating bad guys on screen. So beautiful. It's not very hard to explain why Batman and why Bruce Wayne continue to be popular. Why every guy, from little boys to grown men, want to be Batman, want Bruce Wayne's life. He's successful. He's wealthy. He's got all the toys. He's got a secret lair and big screens. He drives the coolest car and has the coolest gadgets. He fights bad guys. He fights for good. It's so easy to see. And this is why we love Batman. This is why we love Bruce Wayne. He is the coolest character ever created. And that's why Tony Stark, Iron Man, is based on Batman. Tony Stark is simply Marvel's answer to Bruce Wayne and Batman. It's a one-to-one comparison. And, you know, I love Tony Stark. Man, Robert Downey Jr., love him to death. I love the Iron Man movies and Avengers. But he's based on Batman. Bruce Wayne came first. Batman came first. And Batman continues on. And that's why I continue to want to see proper, awesome portrayals, because he is the coolest. Every guy wants to be him. We all want to be Batman. We all want to be Bruce Wayne. And for the coolest guy on the planet, Batman and Bruce Wayne deserves proper, amazing women to go with it. Now we're going to talk about the Bat Babes. In 1989, Kim Basinger as Vicky Vale. Beautiful. Yeah, not much to be said there. Michelle Phifer as Catwoman. Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy. Zoe Kravitz, Catwoman. Katie Holmes as Rachel Dawes. Anne Hathaway, Catwoman. Every guy wants to be him, and all the ladies want to date him. I mean, that is the definition of cool. Of all the Gothams we've seen portrayed in the movies, we have, of course, Tim Burton's Gotham. Okay? He set a new standard. And that Gotham was really cool. Christopher Nolan's Gotham. That was based, and he shot a lot of those scenes. And that you see the exteriors are all based in Chicago. From the bridges to the buildings and architecture, that's Chicago. So Chicago became Christopher Nolan's template for what Gotham is. And finally, The Batman, which really dark. You can't tell what kind of city this is. Is it New York? Is it Chicago? Or somewhere in between? But of the three, I like Tim Burton's. Tim Burton's vision of Batman took the comic books and made it a living entity and breathing entity without going over the top the way Joel Schumacher did. You believed, and it was grounded enough to where you feel like you're in a fantasy world off the comic book page, and he brought Gotham to life. The Batcave. There's been a lot of really cool Batcaves through the years. Christopher Nolan in Dark Knight Rises. Some really cool water features in there. Of course, we saw Christian Bale find that Batcave underneath the mansion in Batman Begins. We saw that carry over into Dark Knight, where they had the underground lair because the mansion burned down. But when they rebuilt the mansion for Dark Knight Rises, the 8 years that had elapsed, we had the new Batcave, where, Alfred suggested we need to make some adjustments and, into the structural over. But it was just, really cool Batcave. Now, Tim Burton in Batman Returns, that was a pretty cool Batcave. Had some cool features in it. But then Zack Snyder in Batman versus Superman, that was kind of like a man cave version. A little more. He built it, but you know what? I believe that Bruce would do that. So I still of the three, I think I like the Dark Knight Rises one. Lots of guys have played Batman through the years. We've mentioned them along the way, from Adam West in the old TV show, to Michael Keaton, to Val Kilmer, George Clooney, Christian Bale, Ben Affleck, Will Arnett as Lego Batman, Ian Glenn from the Titans TV show. Of course, we know him from Game of Thrones. He played an older Bruce Wayne in that. And finally, Robert Pattinson. It's hard to pick a favorite. Up there would be Christian Bale, Robert Pattinson, and definitely Michael Keaton. Those would be my top three of my personal choice for Bruce Wayne. Of course, you can have a dividing line there, right? Where you might like the portrayal of Batman better than the actor's portrayal of Bruce Wayne, which brings up a really interesting question. What do you guys think? Do you have a favorite Batman? And is that different from your favorite Bruce Wayne? So that's a really cool thing, because we've seen that a lot in the Spider-Man movies. You might have your favorite here and your favorite there and your favorite there, but they might be different. You might like this Peter Parker, but you don't care for the on-screen portrayal as much of who he is as Spider-Man. That can happen sometimes as we see different actors play the role through the years, wherein the creative people creating the visuals, from costume design to the CGI elements of the costume and how they integrate that into the story, is different than just a regular scene where we're shooting an actor portraying a role, which is, of course, portraying Bruce Wayne, where we see that shot and we just get that one shot, right? And I think about George Clooney. Not for 1 second. I'm not sure what that was. There was zero expression, zero personality. It wasn't Bruce Wayne. It wasn't even George Clooney on screen. One example. Val Kilmer, another very muted performance. And yet, Michael Keaton, his Bruce Wayne, I believed. And I still do. But that's Michael Keaton. The guy's an amazing actor. And he brought his own take on Bruce Wayne. A little bit more dry, of course, would be Christian Bale, and then much darker would be Rob Pattinson. And that's why I like all three, Christian Bale, Robert Pattinson, and Michael Keaton's versions, because they each have their own take on it. And the story, of course, plays into that. But what the actor does in that moment of portraying the character with all the history and baggage of Bruce Wayne, the loss and that heaviness, but also the weight of knowing that you are the hero of the city, all has to be encapsulated into that one performance where you're playing Bruce Wayne. And then when you can bring your own little nuance, right? Bring your own skill set to that, your own experiences with all of the history of that character. A lot goes into it, right? And that's where, and basically, but at the end of the day, what matters is what we see on screen. We're finally here to the top 10 favorite Batman movies. I chose these 10, and then I'm count them down from 10 to 1 being my favorite. The top 3 can actually shift, all right? I like to have that top 3 be a little bit fluid, be adjustable, depending on how I feel. But number 10, Batman and Robin. You know how I feel about that. It's not hard to explain. It's completely awful. You can't even gold plate that turd. It's just a turd. Batman Forever at number 9. Batman Returns, number 8. Number 7, Batman versus Superman. Number 6, Lego Batman. Now we're getting a lot better, right? As we're moving our way through the list to Batman Begins at number 5. Dark Knight Rises, number 4. See, this is where it gets difficult. Is it Dark Knight? Is it Dark Knight Rises? Is it The Batman or Batman? So that's where, because all of these movies are really good movies. Really good versions of Batman, really great versions of Gotham, a great story, great villains. So this is where it gets hard. So here's the top 5. Batman Begins. Number 4, Dark Knight Rises. Number 3, The Batman. Number 2, Batman. Tim Burton's Batman. And number 1, if I had to choose a favorite, would be The Dark Knight. That was the perfect blend of an immersive world of Batman, an over-the-top amazing villain, Heath Ledger's Joker, with Christian Bale, an amazing Batmobile. And so that is my favorite. Story, the way Nolan shot it, with giant sections of it in IMAX, the soundtrack and the sound, beautifully done. There's been a lot of great Batman movies through the years, and I'm really excited to see where it goes next. I hope that we can continue to have amazing people playing Batman, directors, writers doing it justice, new stories, new ways of telling new stories. Will we see a Joker in The Batman Part 2 with Robert Pattinson, and written and directed by Matt Reeves again? Will we see a Joker there, or will we see some other character come to the forefront? It was an interesting idea for The Batman to feature the Riddler and Penguin, and they did it well. Some movies will bring in so many other characters, right? And it hurts the story. Think about Spider-Man 3, when they brought in 3 different villains. Or you think about Batman and Robin, when you have Poison Ivy, and you have Bane, and you have Mr. Freeze, and Mr. Freeze. You have all these characters on screen, but how do they all serve the story? It can be very complicated to write that well. So I'm excited to see where this goes next. Lego Batman did a fantastic job, where there is a massive array of characters on screen at once. Huge. And I expect Lego Batman 2 in the future to do the same. So where we go next with Batman, I'd like to know what you think. Who are your favorite Batman? What is your favorite Batman movie? Who's your favorite Bruce Wayne? Are they the same? What actor do you like best as Bruce Wayne? What is your favorite Batman movie? Do you have a favorite Batmobile? Or maybe the Bat Pod? Or Bat Suit? Okay, this of course has been back here the whole time. The Dark Knight suit. And watch this. Yes. Okay. Do you have a favorite Bat suit? What's your favorite Bat Babe? Which Catwoman do you like the best? So many questions, right? We all have our own opinion. You know my opinions now. You know which ones are my favorites. I'd love to hear yours. Leave me a comment below. I'm Eric, and this has been the Batman Experience. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you join me next time. Hit the subscribe button, like it if you like it, and please let me know which ones are your favorites. You guys have an awesome night. I gotta go. Commissioner Gordon is calling. Have a good night.